When you hear Ghost of Tsushima, you often hear things like best game ever made, or a masterpiece, or the best Assassin's Creed game. Well, I can tell you two things that it's not. Game of the Year and PlayStation exclusive. Okay, the second one was kind of personal, because like when it first came out, my friend started telling me to get a PS5 to play it, but I just couldn't bother to buy an entire console just to play one game, and part of me thought for something of this scale, it had to come on PC eventually, and it did. So here we are. Alright, so after about 20 hours, I can confidently say that there are a lot of things I like, and I agree with many things that people say about this game. However, there are also things that I wish were different, but overall I'm really enjoying it so far, and I can see myself playing it for months to come. So let's get into the details. So first off, it's the story. I've never seen such powerful storytelling in any game, especially a game where combat and stealth are clearly the focus, and the immersive environment and sounds of nature just really add to the emotion we feel through the character's voice. The sorrow, the loneliness, and the epic score all blend together perfectly. And the vibe is like a mix between Sekiro and Elden Ring, but with a lot more cutscenes and dialogue, and I mean a lot more cutscenes. And one of the things I like most about the story, or I mean like the characters in general, is Jin, the main guy who's not only fighting a war practically by himself, but also fighting a war within himself. Being raised as a samurai, he knew nothing but honor, and never had to stray from his principles, or the principles imposed upon him, as he later realized. Then, when faced with overwhelming enemies, he had to make a choice between compromising his honor or let it all go and die like the rest. And the whole time we get to experience that struggle. Like when he assassinates someone, he would say something like, "Oh, it had to be done," or like, "There's no other way." And it's those little details that give Jin a lot of depth and make me relate to him even more. And even the side characters have a lot more personality than most of the main protagonists I've seen in other games. For example, I really like Yuna, and kind of feel bad for her at some point. And his uncle Shimura is kind of a prick, and I don't like him at all. And there's a lot more that I don't want to talk too much about here in case you haven't played it. And like I'm not even halfway through the story, and I already feel very invested in the characters and the people and just everything that's going on. And I think that's a rare feeling to have about a game. Haven't seen much of the villain yet, but so far I think he's decent, super brutal, and evil guy. And I mean, he does seem a bit one-dimensional. But we'll see. In terms of graphics, there's not much to talk about here. The game is as stunning as it gets. For a 4-year-old game, I think it looks better than most games that came out this year and last year. The world is vibrant, yet somehow desolate and sad, like a war-torn land should be. It might be the wind and the flowers and the occasional dead body you see on the road that add to the realism of it all. And like, considering how good it looks, the game performs really well. I never dropped below 60 FPS and never had any visual bugs or stuttering, and that's something we can't really say about AAA games these days. Alright, so let's talk about gameplay. There are pretty much only a couple minor things that bother me, and it's strictly personal preference. One is that you can't have any interactions with the NPC except for enemies. And by that I mean killing them, or even attacking them. You can't kill any civilians or anything like that. And like, I mean, yeah, I get it. Jin is a samurai. And he's supposed to protect his people and all that, but Jin isn't playing the game. I am. And I don't want to act like Jin, I want to act like me. Not that this is how I act in real life, but like, I want to have the freedom to do what I want. And when the game prevents me to do that, it takes me out of the immersion. And excuse the digression, but this is one of the main reasons I don't play Spider-Man or Hogwarts Legacy in any open world game that prevents free-range interactions with NPCs. It just doesn't feel right to me. And the other thing is the parkour. There is little to none in this game, and it's an actual chore to get around on rooftops, which is like essential to stealth. And you could argue that samurai only train for hand-to-hand combat, or whatever, they don't have a need for parkour, and that's fine. But as the game progresses, Jin becomes more like a ninja than a samurai. So at least let us develop some kind of climbing abilities or something. I don't know. But yeah, that's about it. Very minor gripes, and I like everything else that the game offers, especially the fast travel mechanic. I mean, it is literally fast travel. You just do an instant transmission and teleport to the place. No loading screen, no cheesy effects, just fast travel in its truest form, and that's impressive. Alright, for combat, I think it's pretty fun. I mean, I guess it's kind of generic, like it's clearly designed around the satisfaction of killing enemies, and like, for you to enjoy the artistic brutality of a samurai. I see a lot of games do this, especially open world games, And some people say the combat is similar to Dark Souls. It is not. There's nothing Souls-like about Ghost of Tsushima. I mean, it's not challenging, but you can get in trouble if you don't pay attention. I like the stance system that they have, but like, as you progress, you'll realize that only wind stance and moon stances are actually good. And I mean, that's fine. They all have different movesets and stuff. And if you're into that kind of variety, by all means. For me, I just want to be efficient and kill stuff quickly. Also, I feel like the tools in this game are way too strong. I've said this many times in my videos, but like the smoke bomb, once again, is too powerful. I'm not sure if this will ever change in a stealth-based game, but basically it's still an instant win button that you press when you're in trouble or you're just lazy to press other buttons. So yeah, there's that. And later on, when you learn all the mythic skills, which are just absolute hacks, combat will be so trivialized to the point where you just don't care anymore. And the boss fights so far are pretty mid as well. You don't feel like you're under pressure at all, and it all seems like a long interactive cutscene if nothing else. But overall, I think the combat is very similar to Assassin's Creed Valhalla, but with only one weapon. If anything, I think Valhalla combat has more variety and is a lot more fun. I'm sure most people would disagree with me, but that's just how I feel. Alright, so now let's talk about stealth. The thing I love most is probably the animations. You can clearly see that this guy is a samurai and not a trained assassin. So the way he kills is just so blunt and aggressive, as if he was in a battle, as opposed to someone who has a hidden blade. Also, killing from range is really fun in this game. I like using the long bow and just blow everything up, and that causes a distraction, so you can go somewhere else and kill other guys. And the assassination through the paper door is definitely a nice touch. But that's about all I like. Everything else is just kind of bland. Like, the enemies are super stupid, that they always stand with their backs facing you and they're really slow. So there's not much of a challenge where you have to plan your moves. And like, it's funny how even when you get caught, all you have to do is duck down in the grass and they'll stop chasing, even when they're standing right next to you. And another thing is how you can't carry bodies. I'm not sure why they decided to not include this mechanic. I think it would have helped with the stealth. And I mean, it makes sense to hide the bodies when you don't want to draw attention, right? Or does Jin think touching dead bodies is beneath him or something? Anyway, that's about all I have to say about this game so far. Overall, I'm having a lot of fun. More fun than most open world games I've ever played, and I feel like that will remain true for a while. And of course, it's not a perfect game, at least to me, but if you're here for an awesome story and just to enjoy the vibe, Ghost of Tsushima will give you a perfect experience. So that's all I have for now. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you again soon.